What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Dissect of the Dead. We're back with another video. We got another episode of Resurrected Retros where we are going to talk about the Hulk from 2003. Yes, Eric Bana's Hulk, directed by Ang Lee. And I'm reviewing old retro Marvel movies and shows. For those who don't know, on my lead up to Doomsday, I'm binge watching all the old Marvel stuff. And the next was on my list was The Incredible Hulk. Just the Hulk from 2003. Now, I've grown up with this movie. It came out in 2003, so I was about 5 years old when it came out. I don't know if I saw it in theaters. I think I would have remembered if I did. But what I do know is that I saw it a lot on DVD. My parents got it on DVD, and I watched it at home. Halloween, I watched it. I watched it over at my neighbor's house, and my neighbor was babysitting me when I was young. And so I've seen this movie a lot. I was a huge Hulk fan growing up. I never watched the cartoons as a kid, but I understood that Marvel was appealing to children, and so I really liked the Hulk movie. I didn't really quite understand it as a kid, though, to be fair. Now, I understood some things. I understood some plot points, and I understood, David Banner was Bruce Banner's father, and I understood, like, small things, but over time, the movie was very confusing, and I didn't really quite get it until I was an adult. And upon this rewatch, I started to put things together, right? Analytically, I'm like, okay, I understand where this, story's coming from. And normally I would do for a movie like this, I think I would create a separate category to put it in something like cult classics. But the reason I put it in Resurrected Retros instead is because I actually still think that this movie's not terrible. It's good enough that I recommend it, right? For people who want to get a better idea of what the Hulk should be represented as. Because the movie does a pretty good job at representing the Hulk, or at least how I view the Hulk should be represented, which is a more mature, more rated R style, going into horror territory at some points, right? The Hulk, as universally appealing as he is more like a horror movie character. And this movie's the best example of that. So the story is kind of like a 2 hour and 18-minute origin story of the Hulk. And yes, there will be spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen it, go out and watch it. This is my recommendation for you. But essentially, it follows Bruce Banner, who at the time of the movie's beginning is named Bruce Krensler because he was adopted as a child. And we get to see the mystery of his background, his origin, his father, David Banner. So this is kind of this is a bit of a stretch from the original comic book counterpart where he was originally named David Bruce Banner, but David Banner became a separate character and that, David Banner became his father. So David Banner was testing and using these genetic experiments on himself, that which he transferred to Bruce Banner through hereditary DNA. When he finds out that Bruce Banner, his son, has this DNA, he worries that his son is going to have egregious effects. He's going to turn into a monster, which we find out later gets awakened through gamma radiation. Of course, this is a little bit different from the comics as well because there's no Rick Jones, there's no Doc Samson, so there's characters that are missing like that, but we still have our gamma radiation sort of nexus event to have the Hulk be brought out, or at least awakened inside of Bruce Banner. And he still saves somebody, a guy named Harper. He saves him from the machine from blowing up, and then he survives the gamma explosion. But it's not like the same desert explosion that you know from the comic books where Bruce goes out and he saves Rick Jones, and, it doesn't do all of that. But we start to, over throughout the movie, we start to understand what makes Hulk tick. Why is he the way that he is? We don't even get a Hulk out scene until about 40 minutes into the movie. For me, it's a little bit easier to watch because I grew up watching this movie, and it's I just love it. I just love chewing up that movie, whenever I can. It just goes by fast for me because I'm having fun, and I have a lot of nostalgic memories of it. And being a Hulk fan growing up, I had the fists. I had the foam fists. I had the action figures that were really cool of the Hulk. It was great. I even had a Hulk-themed birthday party at one point when I was a little baby kid. But essentially, Bruce, he works at Berkeley, right? And he's trying to uncover the same secrets that his father was doing with nanomeds and trying to unlock the secrets of immortality and regeneration of cells with gamma radiation. And when he has this accident, he's just like, oh, I have the nanomeds in my body, so naturally I regenerated. But then we find out his father, David Banner, has been in jail for 30 years since the incident when he was a child, and he has just come out of jail to work as a janitor at Berkeley. And so whenever he is having this, whenever he's sitting in the hospital bed, he reintroduces himself, or David Banner reintroduces himself to Bruce Banner as he's sitting in his hospital bed. Not much long later, Bruce hulks out about 40 minutes into the movie, as I said, and then that's when the plot starts to move forward a little bit. We get introduced to Thaddeus Ross, aka Thunderbolt Ross, played expertly by Sam Elliott. And as much as I like Sam Elliott as Thunderbolt Ross, I actually think I like William Hurt more as Thunderbolt Ross. I think William Hurt was a better, version of Thunderbolt Ross, even though Sam Elliott did a really good job. I just think Sam Elliott was better for Carter Slade in Ghost Rider. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Carter Slade was more up Sam Elliott's alley. Nonetheless, he did a really good job as Thunderbolt Ross. Eric Bana did a pretty good job as Bruce Banner. Nick Nolte is always fun to watch. So Jennifer Connelly, super hot in this movie. I didn't even realize until I was an adult how hot Jennifer Connelly was in this movie. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, yeah, I can't stop thinking about how hot Jennifer Connelly is. She does a great job as Betty Ross. So David Banner sends his dogs. He has three dogs. One's like a poodle, pit bull, and then another one, I can't remember what it was, like a terrier or something. I can't remember. He injects them with the DNA of his son, and so they become Hulk dogs. And he sends them out to kill Betty after she finds out who he is. And so then Hulk finds Betty and attacks the dogs. We have a great fight scene between the Hulk and the radioactive dogs, and he fucking murders them, and it's crazy and it's fun. Then you have Josh Lucas as Glenn Talbot, who is a military guy that works for Atheon and used to work for General Ross, and he wants to get in on the regenerative DNA for the military that Bruce and David Banner were working on. And so later on in the movie, Thaddeus Ross ends up abducting and taking in Bruce Banner and trying to contain him. Glenn Talbot wants to extract the DNA of Bruce Banner to use it and fund it and militarize it and make money off of it. That ends up backfiring and getting himself killed in the most hilarious way, too, because he tries to shoot a grenade launcher at Hulk. It just bounces off of him and blows up in his face. Then Hulk escapes the underground lab. Or the underground military base in the desert where Thaddeus Ross was holding him hostage for testing and whatnot. And then we see Hulk escape back to San Francisco to find Betty. Lots of fight scenes, lots of fun things like Hulk jumping on the back of a jet, flying into the atmosphere and falling back, and he jumps onto a bridge. There's a moment that rarely kind of gets highlighted in this movie that I was like, this feels like a movie where we don't really see the Hulk as a hero. We see him as a monster. And there's a fine line, right? There's a balance to be able to do the Hulk where you see him as both a hero and the monster that needs to be controlled. I think the Avengers movie is the best one that does that, right? The Avengers movie shows the double-sided duality of the Hulk's character as being a superhero and a monster. I think the Avengers is the best way to do that. But in this movie, there's a small glimpse where one of the jets is about to fly into the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and Hulk jumps off of it and pushes the plane down, so he misses the bridge and misses all the civilians. So not only did Hulk save the civilians, but he saves the guy in the jet too. It was pretty good. I didn't realize that until an adult. I was like, oh, he just saved them. There was another moment that was really funny. He was fighting the military in the desert, right? And Hulk jumps onto one of the tanks, and he straddles the barrel of the tank, and he's trying to rip the top of the tank off. When he pulls it up, he goes, "Ah!" like he just got shot. And I'm just like, why was he screaming? What did he do? After rewatching this movie like 100 times, whenever he's pulling the top of the tank off, the barrel comes up and hits him right in his balls. It's so funny when you watch that, because he goes, "Ah!" and you're like, why did he do that? It's because he just fucking yanked the tank up and fucking hit himself in the dick with the barrel of the tank. It was funny. It's funny noticing those kind of things. And then David Banner turns himself in. When that happens, he's like, before I get sent away forever by Thaddeus Ross, I just want to, get to know my son a little bit better. I want to see him one more time before I get sent away. His real intention is to awaken the Hulk to drain his power because David Banner used the nanomeds to inject into his body, used the gamma radiation, which should have killed him. It should have killed anybody that was in that scenario. But he manages to awaken some dormant powers, and he becomes basically a derivative version of Absorbing Man. I think there's another Electro character, Xerax or something, that was like kind of derivative that he was inspired by, but it's mostly Absorbing Man. And it's not Crusher Creel, unfortunately, but we do get David Banner as Absorbing Man. And I do like the sort of meta commentary of David Banner being sort of a alternate personality, that even though it's his father, it is the awakened version of the Hulk. So there's a lot of good things about the Hulk that's in this movie. Things like the alternate personality, the trauma, the repressed memories of what Hulk or Bruce Banner did or experienced as a child, and how it affects him as an adult. Things that we don't really get to see often in Hulk movies, which we don't really get a lot of Hulk movies anymore, but the trauma and the repressed memories and things like that, that's all part of the story. And it's part of what makes the Hulk, tick. And they even mention it, the rage, the power, the freedom of becoming the Hulk. He ends up actually liking it. He likes to let loose as the Hulk. And so finally in the end credit, or not the end credit scene, there's no end credit scene in this movie, but the final scene, we have David Banner and Bruce Banner head to head clashing as Absorbing Man versus the Hulk, or derivative of Absorbing Man. Whenever David tries to extract the power from the Hulk, he realizes that he doesn't want it. It's too much power for him. And I guess he just poofs and dies and turns into a smoke of green air. And then Bruce Banner survives. We cut to a year later, and he ends up in the jungles of South America, in some sort of border conflict between South Americans somewhere, like Colombians or something. And it always was one of those things where I was led to believe that this movie, Ang Lee's Hulk, was the direct prequel, or at least it was tied, thematically and directly to the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie. Because of where that movie starts and where this one ends, it looks like The Incredible Hulk is a direct sequel to that movie. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't think that was always canon. I think that this Hulk is a completely separate Hulk, and that The Incredible Hulk is a different movie, but just you go ask Universal what the stance on the Hulk is. But in the MCU can't make any more Hulk movies, solo Hulk movies, because Universal owns the rights to the Hulk. Nonetheless, they can still use him in the MCU in other people's movies. For example, The Avengers, Thor, Spider-Man, Brand New Day. But I always refer back to this movie because I think it gets the Hulk as a character and the Hulk comics sort of, it gets them the most right. It gets them in the way that those other movies don't quite get it, right? There's still things that are problems with this movie, like Glenn Talbot as a character is almost irrelevant, and he has no purpose in the movie other than to be an annoying foil. There are moments where it's like we don't have the Hulk out scene doesn't happen until 40 minutes into the movie. That's a little bit disappointing, especially if you've never seen this movie before. It's going to come off as really boring for that first half. And in that first half, there's edits and direction. This movie can be a little bit pretentious at times. I wouldn't say it's so pretentious that it becomes Oscar baity, but it is kind of artsy fartsy and unique and weird in how the direction works. I always liked it, particularly as a kid. I always liked the weird direction and the fact that they would edit it and cut out squares like comic book panels, essentially. And so you would see, particularly in the second half of the movie, there's comic book panels where scenes take place, and you can see the editing of how there's little boxes where people are talking, and it cuts to different camera angles within those boxes. It's actually really cool in the second half of the movie. It's sprinkled in the first half of the movie as well, just not as much. Nonetheless, I still think this movie deserves credit for being the first big theatrical Hulk movie, and it was something that really understood the character on a fundamental level as a monster. While not quite a superhero movie, more an in-depth look into trauma and suppressed rage and suppressed, memories, and it gets the Hulk on a level of integrity or comic book integrity that we don't quite see anymore because people think, oh, well, he's just a green enraged monster. You can just have him go out there and smash things, which is an easy thing to do, and I don't disagree with that sentiment. But if you really want to get into how to dive into the psyche of the character, this is the movie to go to. So, anyway, let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. Have you seen the Hulk? Do you like the Hulk? Do you absolutely hate it? Do you think I should have not given it this much of a high of a praise? Let me know what y'all think, and leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll see y'all in another video very soon. The Hulk, Resurrected Retros.